start a recording on this so that we can share this with some of our fellow affiliates that aren't able to be with us today. So what we wanted to do today is, I'm going to be very, very brief, is I just wanted to do two main things. First thing I wanted to do was to show you guys a visual of something that we sent an email about last week. Some of the affiliates on the call that have been around with us for more than 7 years remember something that looks something like this. What we've done now is we've recreated the interpretation cube. I know it's going to be hard to see on here, but what we have is now what are the 6 green pages from your Intermetrics manual are now in a interactive cube. So one of the things that we found in the past was a lot of affiliates loved using this as a handout or giveaway to each person they were facilitating an Intermetrics debrief with. So we got them back in. They're now in a cardboard stock, pretty firm. I mean, you can beat on them a little bit, and they stay together pretty good. But they're also a little bit more environmentally friendly. Also, a heck of a lot easier for you to transport. They'll come to you flat. Fold them up, it takes about 7 seconds, and you got yourself a cube to debrief with. So if you have any questions on that, let us know. And then other than that, I wanted to turn it over to Brian. One of the things that, as many of you guys know, Jay Niblick and our organization has had a long-standing relationship, and that relationship hasn't changed in any way whatsoever. But one of the things that Intermetrics brought to the table here very recently is some new members onto their team that have some tremendous experience with the tools. Very specifically, tremendous experience using those tools out there in the field with end users. So what we wanted to do is I wanted to bring in Brian, who is the president of Intermetrics North America. And what he wants to do is spend, what I asked him to do, what we talked about doing, was him to spend 45 minutes an hour talking about Intermetrics, talking about debriefs, talking about ways to grow your business. So that's all I'm going to say about this. I'm going to let Brian do all the smart talking and help you guys grow your business. So I'll turn it over to Brian. It's all yours.
Awesome. Gerard, am I coming in loud and clear?
Sound perfect.
Awesome. Well, hey, appreciate the opportunity to do this today. Those of you that understand, my role awareness has always been a negative. Just means I don't identify with title. So I'm coming to you today just out of intention only, but it's been extremely exciting as I've gotten to know who Gerard is. I feel like we were separated at birth. Just witty, crazy, fun, exciting. And I can see why he and Tammy work so well together. I've got my genius opportunity in my life. Jennifer, who's she's my partner in crime. We've worked together for about almost 19 years now, and everything that I don't bring to the table, she has it, and vice versa. Super jacked and excited. I love the name of the organization, Trusted Advisors. Have kind of peripherally known about what you all do and been around it just because of the amount of time that I've spent with Jay as well. And so it's kind of like we're a family. We just didn't know it, and now we're getting introduced. So a little bit of background just kind of quickly. I came into contact with the instruments, the assessments, back in about 2000, 2001, when the Intermetrics organization was kind of serving as a consulting group to Target Training International and bringing that Trimetrics forward. And I was being, if you will, kind of baptized into the concepts of using psychometric tools at that time. So at that very juncture, I literally was just not learning to value one instrument over the other. I kind of got the fire hose approach of learning all three at the exact same time. And immediately started going to work and making lots and lots of mistakes. So just honored and grateful to be able to have learned through that process and that phase of time. So from 2000 really to 2005, I call that kind of my training time, and we'll talk more about that. But in 2005, left the independent consulting firm I was working with to start my little firm called Results Group. In September 2005, I literally went back and actually recently found a Word document from that era when I was just spending time writing what I wanted to do when I grew up. And this concept and idea of being able to, be more abundant and do more things with the instruments in ways that nobody else could even think of. And I wrote about 2.5 pages of just free thinking and visioning and dreaming at that time. And I was doing some cleaning up on my computer system end of this past year, 2018. And I found this Word doc that had not been modified since September of 2005. And looked at, it was kind of neat to go back and just rehash and just read what I was thinking about and wanting to do at that time. And in December of 2018, I can tell you everything that I've had a chance to kind of go through, do, and work with the instruments and tools and look at these in a way that nobody else was thinking about looking at them. We're living that dream. So I think it kind of reminded me that every time I'm in my journal, every time I'm in somewhere writing down what I really want to do, I'm creating opportunity. So I put a few slides together today that I just wanted to share with you some just stuff. I think the first message, and Gerard and I and Tammy, we all share this. We really believe it's the best time in the world to be in the industry that we're in, which is understanding human talent, teaching people, engineering epiphanies within them about themselves. And the only reason I think Jay invited me to be a part of the organization was simply because I'm continually thinking of different ways to just take the instruments to market and different ways to do things with teams and with individuals in different ways. I've had a chance to support coaches now in this capacity for going on like 7 years. And I also still have my own little practice. So, but I believe it's a modern day gold rush. I think everybody right now, and the cool thing is some folks are a little bit worried that there's more and more instruments coming out onto the market. And in reality, what we've needed is we've needed more people to jump into this pond or this world that we're in, because the more people that jump in, it allows us to look a lot different. I mean, I love it when an organization is saying, hey, we're considering looking at, or we're in the market of, because I'll tell you right now, here's what I know. I don't believe this. I know it. We measure more data about individuals than anybody else on the planet. And it's just a pretty cool time because the phrase big data is being used more often. The ability when you get out onto your site to download and export data files and to show them a huge string, this Excel spreadsheet of data, not that we're going to use every single piece of it, but it just blows their mind. So the real question is what do you want to do with it? A little bit of history. I think all of us have kind of been through it. Back in the day when I first got exposed to instruments, what we did is we exchanged money for tests. That's what we did. I made a lot of money selling tests. And what I realized was that it wasn't about tests. What people were really trying to do is they were trying to acquire data. And when I talk about instrumentation, or when I talk about profiles, that kind of stuff, all we're doing is we're taking data and we're transitioning that data into information. Now, through mathematics and that kind of stuff, we just take it and we make it work and we give it back to them. Now, what we ask them to do is make it information. Information means it's usable and it's real for them. And so one of the things I'm glad that we're taping this today, and this isn't out of ego at all. It's just simply one of the things I hear from consultants that I work with on a regular basis is they sometimes like how I say certain things, because here's what people buy. People buy language, and they want to buy things that make sense to them. And it's not about buying. It's about just they're going to find a way to prioritize what's important and valuable to them. And so one of the things that I found, and as I explain this to folks, and I like to tell every organization, there used to be a time and a place when we exchanged the money for tests. And what happened was most organizations ended up using all of their budget to acquire these data that they didn't have the budget to do anything with it. And it wasn't valuable that they had the data. What was valuable is the ability to do something with it. So what's happened, I think, and one of the cool things about Intermetrics and its abundance mentality and how they think of it, and Intermetrics would not be Intermetrics today if it wasn't for what Tammy and Gerard have provided. I mean, there's been a lot of just opportunity to learn and gather information from the consultants that are a part of the organization. So I think for that, you all need to just be happy and understand that there's a lot of gratitude for that. And here's what we're at today. I mean, and we'll give you access to these slides. You can have them. But, what we do, I think what's really powerful in having access to this information is we're able to go out and not just exchange money for tests, which is we give them the fish. We actually, when you take your business and when you've had a chance to coach somebody and help them in their career and you've moved them to the next level, the real question is so what, now what? I know you have a tremendous amount of curriculum that allows you to do a lot of cool things within an individual and how they work and operate. One of the things that really I found to be very powerful is how to take it and get them to dream with what they might do with it. And this abundance mentality is we teach people how to apply and how to take this information and apply it into their world. What happens is because of the unlimited model that we have, we're able to start now to replicate that investment we make on a monthly basis and do things that we never thought possible. And I love the quote. I love what we do here. And this is what I've been able to do and what we've been able to teach our clients, our folks that we've worked with over the years, how to do, to where ideally what we do, if we've really done our job effectively, is what my intent, or when I start with my why initially with a client, is I want to get them crazy results. And when I was first starting out thinking about starting my own consulting firm, I didn't, back when I was younger in high school and college, I didn't sit around and say, man, I want to own a company someday. I remember saying to myself, I just want to find a way to pay people to do the things that I'm horrible at. Because when I worked for GE Capital in the 90s, I used to get written up for not doing all my detail work and all this other stuff. And I didn't know how I'd ever actually get there. But what's crazy is we've kind of evolved and we've moved. One of the things that we find to be most successful within a relationship is that when we teach people how to do what we do, what we get to have the opportunity to become is, I want to become the utility bill. I want to become that part of their monthly billing that they never ever think. Because we never sit around and when we're discussing, when times get tight, we never sit around and discuss with our significant other or a business partner, maybe I was thinking about, we should maybe go back to candles and maybe consider, maybe kind of like getting rid of our utility bill. Why would we not do that? Because it's just part of our life. And I really believe that when we do our job with a client or with someone we've coached or as we've moved into an organization, if we've done our job, we've not only changed their life and helped them see things in a different way, we have taught them how to use the instruments as well, to where we become so integrally woven into their life that they would never consider being in business or doing anything in their life without having access to this instrumentation. And so when I talk big picture and what we do and how we do it, it's really about going around and just figuring out how to give people the understanding of how to apply this data. And as they understand how to apply it, I've learned so much from our clients and from our customers who we've worked with, who've said, I took your little idea, or I took this and I just changed it. That for me is a touchdown. When they've taken it and they've made it their own, or they've done it in a different way. And so one of the things that I've found within every one of my key clients that I'm working with, or when I get somebody who kind of gets it, here's something that we do with them. On the Unlimited, you create your own volume orders. We'll go into a client and here's what we'll tell them. Because here's what I do know. This is a true principle. If people work harder on themselves than they do on their jobs, then they will be very successful and they'll be very happy. And what I also know is if they will apply the things that you teach them in their personal life, they will apply it in their professional life. So if you all agree that when people take what you've taught them and they'll apply it in their personal life, then they'll do it in their professional life. Because if people only work on their job and never work on themselves, then what we have is that we've got a transaction, we've got an invoice, we've got money, and we are done. And it's a very extrinsic, not a real personal relationship. If my intent is truly to become the utility bill for them, to where all I am is just a monthly resource that gives them visibility into something they never thought they could have visibility into, then if I become that, doesn't it make sense that I'd make it available for them to do in their personal life? And so that's what, and so I set their perspective up front. I say, here's the deal. When you start to understand this, here's where I believe that you're going to go. You're going to go to those things that are most important to you, your significant other, your kids, your nephew, or that neighbor who's struggling and trying to figure out how to, get through college or whatever. So what we'll do for that company is we will say, you know what, because you're investing on a monthly basis to have access to the instruments, because that's an intent. That's an outcome I want to have when I'm working with an executive who's at a company. I want them to start using it within that organization. And as we teach those folks how to use it, here's how you become irreplaceable. Not that you're valuable, but you become irreplaceable. That's a very key thing to become. So as I become irreplaceable, it's logical that they'd want to do it in their personal life. And so what I do is we create a friends and family link. We create a friends and family link for them to use so that they can take it home and give it to their spouse, their significant other, and they can do something with that trusted person in their own life in a way that allows them to add value. And then they say, you know what? I would never replace Gerard in my life because he gives me access to stuff. So part of that, in terms of just an idea, I'm just throwing it out there, is my clients that I get tremendous success from, we create a friends and family link. And then what happens is, I guarantee you, they're going to give it to somebody who's key, and then they're going to say, I need to talk to somebody about that, right? I've got the logo on it. I've got this on it. I need to have a conversation, which is just another opportunity, because I'm not a very good salesperson. I'm amazing at serving. I'm not great at selling. And I'm not saying that to be self-deprecating. My genius, I am off the chart high empathy. I'm off the chart high altruist. And I'm off the chart, high I. I don't have a real high D. When I first took the profile, I wanted to be a high D because I thought, oh, all high Ds are successful. And most of the folks that go out there and do presentations talk about how amazing all the high Ds are. And you know what? Nah, I'm a low I, and I get tremendous results because I stay true to who I am. So one of the things is just think big and living within ourselves. And when we think big, what happens is we teach people that there are those that go out and they exchange money for tests. And all they do is they help people acquire data. And you know as well as I do, it's not about the acquisition of data. It's the application of data that truly allows them to make it usable, which is we make it information. And so a lot of what we're dealing with right now is not people's ability to understand what to do or, maybe how to do things in a traditional way. What we're trying to do is we're trying to really, truly figure out that how we've always done things in the past is not how they're going to be in the future. So our number one obstacle is our own paradigm of what we think it is. And so part of what we got to do is we got to sit there, we got to think big. We got to realize that it's all in our own mind. And so one of the questions to ask ourselves is not how can we do it? The real question is what's possible. And I love to learn from clients because I'll ask them questions like, what do you think you could possibly do with this? Just let them think. And as we go through it, I ask them, consider, experiment on this. Where else could you take this? What else could you do with it? And in that idea or in that theme, in that vein of, wow, you know what? My pastor who's doing counseling with families, you know what? I think she would benefit from this greatly, or I think he would, or whatever. Or you know what? I've got a teacher, I got this guidance counselor who I'm neighbors with. And I mean, understand the barriers in our mind are what prevent us from truly seeing the opportunity that's out there. So I'm going to give you a crash dump on some of this stuff. Here's some of the stuff that I've learned. Man, I love it. From 2000 to 2005, I call that my training ground. And here's, I'm not a really high theoretical type guy, but I do read a book every week. I don't really read it. I subscribe to Audible and I listen to books. And I don't read them so I can learn. I read them so I can apply it and I can share information. And there's that book, Outliers, where Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about, takes 10,000 hours to become world famous or best in the world at something. I started doing the math. I think I hit my 10,000 hours by like 2006, 2007, and debriefing, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tests a quarter to where it turned into thousands and then tens of thousands. I think I hit my 10,000 hours by about 2006. And I learned a lot of stuff through this process. And so this is a contact sport. So every week, my goal to this day is I want to go over a new instrument with a new individual every week. Somebody new that I don't know that's not in my circle. Every week, it's just a goal. And if I hit it, I just check it off, right? And it's got to be face-to-face. Now, I do stuff over the web and face-to-face stuff, whatever. But in person is pretty cool. Here's what I also learned. Mailing stuff doesn't sell. You can't sell. Mail doesn't sell. It's really about just getting out in front of them. We did public events. The book, The Profitable Consultant, when Jay was putting that together, he was interviewing Jennifer and I a lot, and he speaks to us because we did education-based marketing. And what I realized was mail didn't sell anything. We would send out 5,000 pieces of mail, and then we would call every single piece of mail to see if these people would come to an event. And what was crazy was this. We'd send out 5,000 pieces of mail, and we called every single one of them. And you know what? That is a lot of flipping phone calls. And what I realized was I wasn't that good at making phone calls. But I got better at it pretty quick because when you have a safety net, nobody there to help you out if you're failing or falling down, you figure some stuff out. And that time I had 4 kids, and they were young. But we would send these pieces of mail out. We'd call them, and here's what they'd say. Man, I don't think I saw that. Or they'd say, you know what? I think I saw it. Tell me more about it. And we got that. And what we found was we just got frustrated. We thought we're going to test something out. So we, after like 2 years of doing this, we sent out, no invitations, and we called all 5,000 people that we were going to send them to, and we kept track of our statistics, and we told them that we'd mailed them something. And you know what? We had people actually say that they received something that they didn't receive. They say things like, yeah, I think I saw something about that. Yeah, tell me about it. And so we call them and go, we mailed you something. We invited you to come to this executive briefing. And they'll go, and so what we found is that it's about timing. And so we found out that events were very expensive. We found out that mailing stuff was very expensive. And we just figured out, you know what? If we can get to this rule of 100, you debrief 100 profiles with 100 new people every quarter, and you're in the right place. Now I do maybe once a week. But when I was really grinding, I was wanting to meet 100 new people a quarter. Then I found a referral partner, somebody that didn't do what I do, but still worked in that same industry. And I found a really good financial advisor. He was late in his career. And what really good financial advisors know is if they do a good job of kind of being that executive coach, then they get a chance to sell more financial products within that. I'm not a big fan of going to referral groups because you know what? Most of them just want to get some free business off of somebody else. But whatever. If you have success with them, God bless you. I don't do that well with it. But here's what I do know. When we do an event, the topic has got to be powerful and it's got to be congruent to my passion. I don't speak on topics that aren't 100% in line with how I believe, eat, breathe, and sleep. And here's what I also do. We learned that we never do an event without being able to tell somebody about that next event. Because when they're in front of you, you've got them. And then as soon as you don't have them, they're gone. And so a lot of times what we do is at the event, what we would tell them is this. And here's what I never did. I never put books in the back. I never put brochures in the back of the room. I honestly don't even make it easy for them to understand how to contact me when I do a public event. Because here's what I tell them. I tell them this. How many of you came here today expecting to get some sort of a commercial or a marketing event on how to do business with me? Raise your hands if all of you are some point in time during the course of this event expecting to get a commercial. And like 90% will raise their hand. I go, come on. You 10% don't think that you're supposed to get a commercial today. And then they all raise their hands. And here's what I tell them. Here's what I promise you. Will you give me 90% of the time today to give you immediately applicable stuff that'll work in your world today? And if I give you 90% content that's immediately applicable, will all of you grant me 10% at the end of our time today so that I can do a commercial to tell you more about our business? How many of you would like that? 90% of what we talk about today is immediately applicable, 10% commercial. Raise your hand if you'll give me that. And they all raise their hand. Because here's what most of them have been to. I've been to those Get Motivated seminars where what is it? It's 10% content, 90% buy my book. 10% something valuable, 90% buy my CD, buy my DVD, come to this other thing. And I don't go to them anymore because they're a waste of my time. So here's what we do. I tell them that up front, 90% of what I give you is immediately applicable. Give me 10%. And then you know what I don't do? I don't do a commercial. I don't tell them how to get a hold of me. Why? Why would I? I did my commercial at the beginning. I set their paradigm and then boom. So I realized life was hard. It had to be easier. I got all kinds of stories around that. But here's what I did find out. My biggest successes weren't mine. My biggest successes were found in having that manager or that leader who I was able to coach and give them a bunch of stuff. And then what did they do? They went out and they propagated it among their people and got successes. And I said, man, that is the model. I've got to find people that want to get better and want to apply. The Kirkpatrick model is how do we get transfer from classroom to application and observable, seeing it in the work environment. The fastest way to do it, Kirkpatrick and all the educational folks will argue on how to do it. Here's how the fastest way to do it is. You know how to do it? Just teach it. If you will teach it, you will own it. The best person who's able to competently execute at the point of incident is the person that taught it. And so I said, man, if that's the model, I'm going to figure that out. So, but in that first go around, 3 of us, we grew a consulting firm from 0 to 1.7 million. And it was a great journey, but you know what? I didn't like it because what we had to do is we had to start and stop and get over it. So I had to go through the process of thinking bigger. So here's what we do. I don't sell, I serve. And so here's what I've known, okay? I've known for a long, long time. I'm not good at selling, but I'm amazing at serving. And I tell people that up front. And I give them my ideas. I'm ridiculously empathetic. I'm going to own all your problems. I'm going to do everything I can help you, and I'll probably give more than I should. And so you got to tell me and help me understand. And then I do tell them, look, there is something that's going to have to transact here. It's going to be some sort of a contractual arrangement. There's going to be some financial pieces, or maybe I've got a sheet that helps explain it all. I actually have Jennifer who kind of helps me do that, some of that stuff. But that's what that's how I just went on and said, look, I'm going to serve you, and we're going to figure out a valuable way to make sure it's worth it for both of us. Here's an idea right now, okay? You've got to pick 2 to 4 clients, businesses, or key people right now in your market, whether they're in job change mode, maybe they're a new senior level executive that just got a job. You can look in the local, we have a local business record here in Des Moines where they talk about people on the move, executives on the move, people that are making changes. I would reach out to them, and here's what we've done for the last several years. We send them a letter that recognizes them, Maybe we'll send them a book. We'll send them a What's Your Genius book. And we'll say, congratulations on the change. Now is the time when you get a chance to take where you're at and go to the next level. The most effective way to do that is to invest in yourself. I'm looking for 2 new individuals that maybe want to partner and understand how we do it. And if it's worth it, then maybe we should do it together. But I just want to know if it's worth a cup of coffee to figure that out. And then I'd send them out the profile. And if they'll get together for coffee with me, I'll be able to pick up at least 1 of those 2, maybe 2 of the 4. But every month, I'm looking at key folks, businesses, or whoever it is that should be doing business. And I send them a very professional letter. And here's what I tell them. I've identified you as one of the key folks in the marketplace that I have a lot of respect for. And I'd like to know if maybe we should work together. And we just leave it at that. And I'm continually going through the process of identifying folks that I don't know to see if it might make sense that we work together. Here's what I don't do, okay? I don't sell. I don't argue about tests' validity. And I don't get into whether or not mine's better than somebody else. Here's what I learned, and who I learned it from was really good clients. And so one of the things I know is when we set a paradigm for somebody, that's how they're going to look at everything else. And so when people ask me, well, do you have tests? I say, no, we have an objective process that helps you understand talent in a way you've never understood it before. Because here's the deal. It's not just a test. It is a process. I have to help interpret that data to make it usable for you. So we have an objective process that helps you look at talent in a way that nobody else has ever looked at it. 3 different dimensions, like a GPS needs 3 different satellites to find your global positioning, right? If you had an MRI, a CAT scan, and a PET scan or an X-ray, right? We got 3 different instruments looking at the same individual, measuring 3 different things, and there's no way they're all going to be congruent, right? Nobody else has 3. It's powerful and it's crazy. So what people buy is a common vocabulary to talk about talent. The modern day gold rush that we're in, everybody's running as fast as they can to understand how to leverage talent, whether that's succession planning, whether that's emerging leader identification, whether that's onboarding, whether that's ramping up, whether that's coaching or mentoring or mediating, whether that's any of those things or just development, right? That's all the different stuff that we can do. And so we've got a life cycle that can exist for the entire life of an individual employee. But here's what organizations buy. And so they tell me, you know what? We like predictive index. We've had great success with it. Here's the question I ask. What prompted you to initially ever engage and bring in predictive index? And they'll tell me, okay, great. Or maybe it's MBTI, Myers-Briggs, whatever. I don't argue about it. Here's what I ask them. I say, did you get the outcome you were looking for? And they said, yep, we sure did. And then I ask them, what was the outcome? And they'll tell me things like, well, we wanted to better identify talent, da, 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 da. And then here's what I'll tell them. Here's what my clients have told me over the years. They initially thought they were buying data on talent. Here's what they ended up with. They ended up with a common vocabulary that helps them to identify talent. And then people will sit back and go, you know what? We kind of have too. So now we've changed their paradigm on data of talent, and it's really about buying a vocabulary. And then here's what I'll ask them. I'll ask them this. Have you ever found that sometimes you can have somebody's profile that's exactly like somebody else's, but they're wildly different? And they'll go, yeah, we've had that. And I'll go, you know what? We have too. And then I'll ask them this, because all I want to do is get them to experiment. Let me serve them, and we'll see where it goes. And I'll say, you know, we have 3 different psychologies that we work with. And see, your Myers-Briggs is really kind of like our first 2 psychologies, but we've got a 3rd one. Will you let me just see if those 2 folks that you've got out there that look exactly alike on the MBTI, would you let me just give them this 3rd layer, and I'll pull it out a la carte. I'll just ship it to you, because here's what I want to do. I like to continually gather data. I like to do research. Would you have those 2 folks take it? And let's just see if they're exactly alike on that one, because that measures the order that they actually process thought at the subconscious level. And every single time that they've actually allowed me to do it, they always come back and go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I never thought I could ever, blah, 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 whatever, right? And then I downplay it. I always just say, would you let me experiment and just see? Because I like to capture data. And then they'll do it, and they'll go, holy cow, that's crazy. I've had organizations for 2 years stick with their other profile sometimes 1 year, sometimes 6 months. And then they'll ask, can we just layer that third piece underneath it? And I say, oh, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? Because you bought a vocabulary that helps you understand talent. And then over time, they start to see so much value being added by that third layer, by that axiological instrument, that eventually they will get rid of the other one and they'll bring the other two in. But that's just something that I've done that works. I don't argue with it. I tell people every instrument that's validated is good. They're all good. I don't get into arguments. And if you've bought that common language and you like it, leave it alone. Don't change it. In fact, if I were to bring in a superior profile and install a different vocabulary, I would damage the most important thing to your organization, which is culture. And then I help them to get more comfortable. So that I put my slides up there, you can see it. But here's what I know, okay? I love to be positioned at that C-suite. And I think the curriculum and the processes that TAN has developed is second to none. You guys have some incredibly cool curriculum that is amazingly powerful. And so the power of that is for you to get this credibility. And what I think you have the opportunity to do is then expand out among that influence of that leader, and then maybe find one or two people within that organization, not that maybe that you're going to coach, but that you could educate them on how to understand the tools, so that you're always seen at that peer level of the C-suite, and then you educate and empower somebody at that lower level, so that every employee at every level understands the data about themselves. So we can take individuals that may be in the janitorial or in the facility maintenance, or maybe just general call center folks. And now all of a sudden we've created a common language that allows all individuals at all levels of the organization, and then we become the utility bill. It's crazy power. I'm not going to do 500 debriefs within a company. I'm going to help that HR professional understand the tools so dang bad that he or she is able to do a pretty good job getting through it. And what happens is they never consider getting rid of the most powerful investment they make, because nobody's going to get rid of their light bill. And that's what I want to become. All right. Every month, we're either growing or we're dying. And so here's the question I ask you. When is the last time you actually debriefed a profile with someone you didn't know? If it's not been in the last 30 days, right? So just think outside, right? And some of us get so wrapped up in what we're doing. The clients we have are the oxygen that feed our business, right? They get us through it. What I'm looking for is the oxygen I'm going to breathe. And the only way that I do it is by expanding out there. I'm always looking to find a referral partner. And how do I make the best referral partner out there? You know how I do it? I bring somebody that I respect in the marketplace. I bring them a lead, okay? If I bring them a lead, and then what happens is it's kind of the Italian thing. Now you owe me. I want everybody in my market to owe me. How do I do it? I bring them great leads, great opportunities, so that I'm top of mind. I've even brought some competitors in my backyard here in Des Moines. I took an action coach. I've given the action coach 3 or 4 leads. And you know what's funny? You know what's hilarious? My clients came back to me and said, they were horrible. I'm like, oh, okay. But I don't operate from the spirit of scarcity. I mean, I get it, right? It's hard. You got to grind through it, but eventually get to that place. You can read stuff on the slide there. Here's what I know. Everything you've got right now is inside your comfort zone. I always want to be expanding my circle of influence and getting one step beyond that, meeting somebody I don't know. So I'm constantly thinking of who can I meet that I don't already know to get me in position to do that. That's all that I have. All right. I love this slide, right? It's my low C, right? I'm always looking at the path less traveled, and I'm trying to figure out how to get there. So I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to ask a couple, if anybody has any questions, right? I mean, I'm hammering away through here. We got about 35 minutes or so. Any questions from some of you that are on the call here that you'd like to ask? I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that we're going to do. I think we'll get into a little bit of a tempo and a routine in some of this, and hopefully just bring you new ideas as often as possible to help you in your world, because it's lonely sometimes doing what we do. It's not easy. And I know that when I was on the other side, when I was buying instruments from another company, the folks that would coach and consult me, they'd never done what I do. They've never been there, at Halloween, end of October, looking at Thanksgiving and Christmas going, dude, I don't know where my next client's going to come from. I've been there. I went to pawn shops in 2007 and bought my kids Christmas gifts. And then I went to the pawn shop, bought a bicycle, and then went down to the local bike shop and bought stickers. and I cleaned it up. I mean, I love being close to bankruptcy. I think that's an amazing experience, right? I don't know if I want to go through it again, but I've been there. I know what it's like to not figure out how and what and why I want to be what I want to be and all that other stuff. I've had my self-direction score down at, 4.0, right? And so I know what it's like, and it's nice to get fresh ideas from different folks. So I'll open up any questions, or Gerard, I don't know how you, facilitate questioning here or whatever, if anybody wants to ask a question.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, Mike Myers, when you do the attribute assessment after somebody has had two people that were almost identically profiled but behave very differently, do you just do the attribute, or do you do the full advanced insights?
Let me understand the question better. So you're asking if they've done the full advanced insights and I'm going to reassess them at a later time, do I just do
No. If they did like predictive index and two people scored exactly the same, but they were very different people, and you said, well, let me add in this other layer, you just do the attribute?
It depends. I don't have like a standardized piece. If they'd let me, I may do all three, but here's the thing that possibly could happen. I might have their discs might be different, or their values might be different. Sometimes I'll just go in with just the AI and just literally show them, because we'll probably see them. And so I'll go in with just the AI, but it's been different. I've done it lots of different ways. If they say that they're willing to experiment on it because they're not truly tied to it, I'll have them do the full ADV. If they're really tied into and they love their PI, or they love whatever instrument it is, I'll just ask them if they'll experiment, and then I will give them only the AI, and then we'll go over their dimensional balance debrief. And then what I'll do is I'll have them bring their Myers-Briggs or their PI in, and then we'll start to go, oh, isn't it? So great question. It depends on where my trust is at with them, how vulnerable they're willing to be with me, because trust is about vulnerability. And if they're feeling kind of like it's my instrument being compared to theirs, I'll do exactly what I asked them. If they're kind of starting to become a little more vulnerable and go, it kind of has run its course, or they say, there's those managers that just don't buy in, and if they get that vulnerable with me, then I will give them the full ADV. So it's a great question, Mike. It just kind of depends on the situation.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions there as I've gone over some of this with you? Hey, Gerard, I'm going to go to something that we just recently kind of created here with Dr. Watson. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to show you something that I don't know that you've seen it yet. I literally just kind of finished it with Dr. Watson here recently. And it's going to come out in the programming later, and I'll send you a copy of this too, Gerard. This
I can
is
distribute from there then.
Rock and roll, man. Yeah, this is so crazy cool. Okay, so and this is something I've created that kind of helps just give a synopsis version. But we all have the 4 vocab words we use for the high, right? Problems, people, pace, procedures. We've got those in terms of like the decisive, interactive, stable, cautious. Those are the 4 vocab words that, as Dr. Watson did his focus groups, we came up on those 4 vocab words, okay? And so most often, we typically will associate high scores with positive vocab words, especially when you go to page 9 in the profile. Those vocab words are on the low end, tend to be negative. The high ones tend to be positive, right? So what Dr. Watson has done is he's been trying to figure out, because I feel like, and I felt like this for years, especially on DISC, most folks and all the different discs, I don't care if it's, all things DISC or Inkscape or whoever, even us, we tend to get people to walk away and they only talk about what they're high in, right? Oh, I'm a high D, right? I'm a high I, high C, or whatever. Well, we know that the low scores are just as important as the high. This is my cheat sheet that I give folks that I talk about, the most common emotion you express. Here's the deal, right? Dr. Watson, and I've been talking to him for quite a while, saying, dude, we need positive vocab words for the low scores. So he came out with them. Check this out. So high Ds are decisive with problems, right? High Is are interactive with people. S's tend to be stable with their pace. High C's tend to be cautious with procedures. Here you go. Low Ds tend to be not decisive, but deliberate. Low Ds love this. They feel better and they go, dude, yeah, because I'm not a high D. I'm not a high D. But I was embarrassed in the meeting to go, I'm a tough guy. No, dude, I don't want to be the high D. But I'll be very deliberate. High I's, introspective, gregarious, outgoing. Low I's, we'd always say, oh, they're pessimistic. They're horrible. No, they're introspective, right? I see Phil smiling going, yes, this feels so much better, right? Dang right? The high S's, stable, right? They're steady and stable when what? Things are going crazy. Low S's, spontaneous. See, we sometimes struggle and talk about, and S is one of the most hardest things for folks to understand. So what they tend to walk away with is going, well, high S's are slow and low S's are fast. Well, you know what? My wife is a 99S, and she is so much more effective at getting stuff done than I am, and I'm a low S. Spontaneous is what I am, and I'm an unstable sumbug. But my wife is stable, but she is able to be consistent, and she just hammers away. Now we look at procedures, right? They're cautious, low C's, challenging. So I'm sorry, Gerard, I popped this out, but I think this is something that can help all of us go back out to folks. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to step line or left or right, but it's my randomness, dude. And I'll send you these slides and you guys can have it and rock and roll. And that's what we do, right? We're all here to grow, right? Tide raises all ships. And at Intermetrics, we're grateful for each and every one of you that you're able to, look at your investment with Intermetrics every month as the utility bill. Seriously, if we don't add value for you, and every month you're having to sit there and go, dude, I'm thinking about ending my subscription with Intermetrics, then we haven't done our job. So my commitment to you, and the reason why Jay has challenged me and tasked me with this is, my job is to bring you new ideas. And Gerard and I and Tammy, we're going to do that. We're going to continue. And Jason just is involved. It's just we got Jay tasked with doing some technical stuff now to kind of keep making the instruments a little more, dynamic and do some more things and that kind of stuff. So that's what we're doing. So Gerard, I am deeply grateful and honored to be able to have a little bit of time today to share some ideas. And as time goes on, maybe we'll break bread and we'll hang and we'll bring you some more ideas.
Well, Brian, I definitely appreciate it. And I know this was very overview, as Brian and I were talking about this beforehand. And, one of the things that we've done in the past, we've had more often calls, and Brian's been more than willing to say he'd be more than happy to do that as well. And once again, Brian has a different perspective, different passion, different energy level than Jay does. And once again, just like this last slide Brian shared, not necessarily good, bad, it's different. Different perspectives, I think, help quite a bit with the network we have because, once again, our network is very different as well. So a couple of things that I would recommend from here. One is that I will get the stuff from Brian, be able to share that. Probably the easiest way for us to share that is either if you want to send me an email or I can figure out a way to get that on our affiliate website.
I'll drop box it to you, brother. We're good.
Yep, that'll be perfect. And then we'll get it out to the network without a problem. Other thing I think would be valuable as well as you guys all on the call currently is get in touch, myself, Wendy, Tammy, even Brian directly, but I think it'll probably be easier if we can orchestrate from here at the home office. Shoot us a text, email, phone call, whatever it may be, and say, I really enjoyed listening to Brian. Some of the things that I think I need to figure out better ways to do for myself in the Intermetrics world is this. If I only could figure out how to describe a negative bias on a low number of, Mike Myers and I were talking this morning, a low self-esteem negative number. I want to find a better way to describe that. If I could do that, I could do better stuff for my client. If there's stuff like that you think of, let us know, and we can put together a topic list and start to put together some calls where Brian can come help with these things. Once again, bring in a different area of expertise, a different perspective, etc. So I think that's going to be an important piece going forward is for you guys to let us know how we can continue to capitalize on the Intermetrics relationship that we have and developed over the last 10 years and continue to grow it. So I'm going to give about 30 seconds where I'm going to let you guys, if anybody else has any questions, we'll hold it open for 30. If I don't hear anything from anybody, I'll close her down so we don't sit here in silence for a while. So any questions, hit unmute button and ask a question as you can. We'll give it about a minute.
Hi, Gerard. It's Linda.
Hey, Linda.
I have a question of Brian. That disc sheet that you just showed with the different words for the low end, is that something that's going to be put out to the world? Because I really, thank you. I really am a fan of having those positive descriptions down at the low end rather than the negative ones. Is that Gerard, you might be able to answer this too. Is this something that we're looking at adopting as far as our DISC assessment is concerned?
Brian's going to share that with me, and I'll share that directly with you. And what I'm going to suggest is that you incorporate it what makes most sense for you and your clients. I don't see many people going against the idea of that positive lower number, quite frankly. But yeah, it's something that Brian has made the commitment to share with us as a network, and we'll be able to. You can figure out how you want to use that yourself personally. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
And
Yes.
Dr. Watson that I'm referring to, Dr. Russ Watson is our PhD who helped, he served basically to put the steering committees together. And so this is from him. This isn't my idea. I've made this is a slide that I created probably back in 2002 when I first learned about profiles. I just didn't have the positive words at the bottom, right? I put, and so yes, the positive words are right now ready to rock and roll. I'm going to send this out. And then Gerard can take liberties. I mean, I've got different stuff on there, but do what you want to with it. But those positive words are immediately well received. I know I'm being rhetorical, but everybody that we share them with. I mean, and here's what I've done. I've gone out to some existing clients here in our backyard that work with their general employees that pay to have access to the instruments. I've gone out to them and said, I've got something new. And so it's given me the opportunity to go back to existing customers and say, hey, let me give you this. And oh, by the way, what else is going on? Right? So absolutely, Linda, great question. It's yours. Take it right now, copy it, do whatever you want to with it. It's yours.
Thanks.
Hey, Brian, Phil here. I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you use it as a marketing vehicle for new companies that you want to target but haven't yet.
Yeah, you bet, man. That little presidential letter that I talked about, I send, if you're really in the business growth mode, I'd send 10 out. I'd find 10 ideal clients. And then what I let them know is that I've identified them as a possible organization that we want to partner with. And then what I'll ask them to do is, if I can have coffee with them or whatever. And then here's what I let them know. I say, you know what, here's what we are. We are the number one diagnosticians of talent. What we do is we diagnose, right, with greater accuracy, with more information, talent, and we do it in a very abundant sort of way. And so I'm constantly looking for, is there somebody that, is, doing really well or not doing well? I mean, a lot of that stuff's kind of cliche-ish. The biggest thing is I go in and we used to have to sell tests up front. I go into organizations all the time right now and just simply say, look, why don't you guys do a quick little test drive of this and just have 5 people take the profile and you, and then let's get back together. And because here's the question. Is having talent aligned in the right places important for you in 2019 and beyond? Is having the right people in the right seats important? See, we talk about, how, the book Good to Great was written, but it doesn't talk to you about how to do it. So is having the right people in the right seats vitally important for you today? 1, yes. If it is, what's your current objective process to do it? B, would you like to take a test drive? I always have at least 1, 2, or 3 test drives going on at any given moment. And so, Phil, the biggest thing is, if I don't have a test drive going on right now, I'm nervous. That's what wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, is knowing that I don't have somebody out there that might be telling me no. Because if I don't have anybody out there taking a test drive, I don't have any possible new oxygen coming in. And sometimes we sit there and we go, oh my gosh, this might be too big of an opportunity. Or, these guys might really stress me. You know what? The more difficult, the better. And here's what I tell you. If you go out there and you get a company that's going to scare the heck out of you to debrief their profile, let Gerard know or let me know. I'll gladly give you a couple, 2 or 3 ideas on questions to ask after looking at the profile. And maybe, Gerard, what we do is we just do some live ammo stuff here where we put some profiles up and I'll tell you some questions to ask off the profile of that senior level executive. Because when I first got exposed to profiles, one of the things they told me was, don't test the CEO or the president or if they've got low self-belief. Oh my gosh, that's a horrible message to deliver. And so you know what I did, Phil? I went out and tested every single president I ever could think of. And I found a bunch of them that had low self-belief. And you know how I learned what to tell them? By telling them the wrong thing. Because I think Mike and I already talked about this, right? If they've got low self-belief minus and that internal intrinsic bias is low and it's a 4.0 or lower, here's the most profitable and edifying and morally correct way to say it. It doesn't mean that they don't have self-confidence. It means that they consider, at a subconscious level, they consider everybody else in their world before they consider themselves. That's another way of saying self-deprecating, except it says it in a very positive way. You consider everything else in your world, everybody else's problems, the strategy of the organization, the vision that you have and the roles that you play, all that stuff gets considered before you even remotely take yourself into consideration. And they go, you know what, that's right. There you go. So
love it. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
Awesome.
Great question.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you about comparing this to the predictive index, because I have somebody in my world who's very big on the predictive index, and of course it's a disc, but it's differently, and there's a whole different emphasis on how it's sold. So how do you, people say they're more involved with the predictive index. I guess, you know, you talk about the values and the AI, but how do you get around that?
Great question, Jerry. Here's what I know. If they say they're like, if it's are you talking about an end user customer who's already using it?
Yeah, or even somebody who's pushing it. Okay.
So now there are those that live in a vacuum that'll say you can fight them, but here's my belief. Okay, this is my belief. This is the belief of Brian Arzani. If they already love it and they've adopted a vocabulary that allows them to talk about talent in an objective way, then I don't fight them on that. Okay. And so I'll ask them, I'll say, because I got to go back and I got to understand how they formed such a very solid opinion about predictive index. And so I let them tell me about it, right? And then I seek to understand, have they been able to realize great results with it? And if the answer is yes, and then I'll share with them my belief. I'll say, well, here's the cool thing, Jerry. You've actually arrived where you should have, because it doesn't matter what instrument you use. What's happened is you've been able to talk about talent in a very objective sort of way. And so now once we've arrived at common ground, then I'll ask them, do you find at times your final candidates, or maybe there's those unicorns that sometimes have the same profiles, but you don't observe the outcome from the profile like you were expecting, right? And now that we've created common ground, then I'm going to ask them, have they arrived there where two people may have the exact same profile, or somebody just blew up. It said they were going to be a rock star and they just kind of fell through the cracks. And the only answer you could give them is, that's one of the statistics. Have you had that? And then they'll say, well, sure, who hasn't, right? And this is where I go, Jerry. I'll say, well, you know what? When I got started doing this business, I used to say the same thing. I used to say, we're just going to blame it on the statistics, or that's just the one-off. And you know what I've kind of arrived at is, I don't want to stop with just one piece of data. See, one piece of data gives me a factor of 0.4, which only shows me a 16% correlation to true success, which means there's 84% of the data that I'm able to capture right now. And so what I found is that the more data I capture, the greater the likelihood of success. And so would you be willing to leave your predictive index alone, but experiment for maybe I give them access to the attribute index for 2 months' time. I give them a test drive for like 2 months, or maybe 6 weeks. Or if they're in a heavy recruiting time frame, I'll give them a month access to it. And I'll say, look, every candidate that you're giving the predictive index to, would you please continue to do that? I'm not asking you to change that, but would you take this volume order and have all of those same folks complete an axiological instrument or our other profile, that third layer piece? And then what I'll do is I'll donate some time to you, and I'll help you do some consideration of candidates and applicants. Because here's what will happen. If they will give you that time and they'll start to talk about talent, they will start to become more vulnerable with you and start to share with you the things that they don't really like about the predictive index. Because the problem with the predictive index is it's kind of like just a big, like, woof, it's a big fail swoop, but it's family, it's blood. And they're not going to tell you what they don't like about it. But if they'll allow you to serve them by giving them that third layer, so that's the only way that I've found, and I don't displace them. What happens is I layer in underneath it. And then over time, they'll start to go, you know what? You're really giving me way better data. And here's what a lot of human resource professionals don't want to be. They don't want to be constrained by an instrument that says yes or no. They don't like that. They love the ability to say, you know what, but there are some people that might actually be good that might not score good on there. And then we've started to earn that right to give them the freedom, because what happens is human resource professionals want the ability to add value in the organization, and they want to be seen as a trusted advisor, to use the term, versus being seen as overhead and compliance, which is what every HR professional is seen as overhead and compliance. What they want to be is development and investment. And when we give them 3 different instruments, now they start to show a very holistic approach to talent, but we have to earn that right. And so the fastest I've ever been able to displace predictive index is about 6 months. Usually it takes for me about a year, 18 months to 2 years, where I'm just doing small projects and I'm earning the right to get them to see what they don't see. It's kind of like a person who has hearing loss. They don't know how much they've been missing until they get the hearing aids and they go, oh my gosh, the birds are so loud, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people don't know what they're missing. And so I don't go in and tell them what they're missing, because they look at you and go, no, the TV's not up too loud. What's your problem, Jerry? We're fine, right? And
Well,
then
they say the predictive index is so much easier for the candidate to take, because it's not forced between 2 choices. It's, selecting adjectives.
Yeah. And what we can do in the future here, get Dr. Watson on to talk about the psychology behind it. But the reality is it may be easier. And again, I don't discount the predictive index. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It gives you a statistical correlation in regards to performance, which is a factor of 0.4. Read the book End of Average by Todd Rose. Great read on statistics and correlation to performance. And he talks about Taylor's influence on the industrial economy, Taylor's influence on the services-based economy we're in the educational system. It'll give you some statistical data to help others understand that just because predictive index says they're going to work out, there's a lot of other stuff there that's not being able to be seen. We've got 3 different psychological looks at them, whereas predictive index is 1. But if they love it, rock and roll with it. See if they'll let you layer it. If they won't let you layer it, they don't value talent enough anyways. So, or I'll just go higher in the organization. I'll go to the president and I'll see if she'll have coffee with me. And then she'll be the one that'll say, you know what? I don't even know what we use for recruitment. Joe over there in the corner, he just does his little thing and we don't get sued and I'm kind of happy,
Yeah.
So great. Yeah. I'd like to live in a vacuum, Jerry, and go, oh, I always displace them and they're horrible, but that's not true.
No.
So great question.
Well, we are at 3:59 and some change. So to respect Brian's time and everybody else's time that we did have from 3 to 4, I'm going to say thank you, everybody, for spending your time with us this afternoon. I will have our team post the recording of this, so if there's some pieces that you want to go back and revisit, we'll have this up onto the affiliate website. Brian will share some this information with me, and I'll get it out to you guys via that website as well. Also, feel free to email me directly as well, if that makes sense. And thank you, Brian, and thank you, everybody, for your involvement today. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Gerard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard and Brian.
Thanks, Brian and Gerard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.